Hi, I'm Dr. Sigourney Weathers, pediatric physical therapist and co-founder of All in Gym Training Co. If you have ever thought about starting sensory sessions in your gym, but felt unsure what they would actually look like, this video is for you. Today, I'm going to walk us through 3 real-life examples of sensory sessions. One is how I personally run them in my community. The second comes from our expert educator, Joy Umenhofer-Stovall, who built a partnership with a local special education school. And the third is a hybrid model from a gym I worked with that added creative sensory stations in a bingo card system. Here's the really important thing to remember. Sensory sessions do not look the same in every gym, and that is a really good thing. They should be flexible, community driven, and adapted to your space, your staff, and the families you serve. So as I share these stories, I want you to imagine what this could look like in your facility. You don't have to recreate these examples exactly. You can take pieces and make them your own. Let's start with the way I personally run sensory sessions in my gym. These are community-based sensory sessions that came to life because of parent need and community demand. For me, outreach was the very first step. I didn't start with schools because our public school education department was going through huge changes, or going through quite a few big changes, and it wasn't the best time to connect there. Instead, I went directly to the community, specifically Facebook groups for parents of kids with disabilities and neurodivergent kids. I polled parents about what days and times work best. I looked at the public school calendar and lined up with days when kids were already off school. And because my gym was closed on Sundays and packed with classes on Saturdays, I found Fridays mid-morning were the best option. I landed on once a month from about 10 to 11:30 on Fridays. When families arrived, I've always greeted them at the door. For most, we'd already messaged back and forth on Facebook, so it felt like welcoming a friend. I greeted each child directly, and I typically would say, "I'm so glad you're here today. Would you like a high five or a hug to say hello?" Because connection right at the start sets the tone. My rules were simple, or my rules are simple. One direction on the tumble track, one at a time on the trampoline. And if there's a cone on something, that means please don't use it. That's it. No long list, just safety and freedom to explore. I didn't set up elaborate equipment. Instead, I focused on safety and accessibility. I'd scan the gym before each session. Could a wheelchair user get onto the trampolines? Was everything stable? Did parents know where to go? That was my main prep. The sessions themselves are beautiful in their variety. Some kids bounced on the trampoline the entire time. Some ran to the pit again and again, over and over again. Some paired up, like the day I watched a mom and her son who uses a wheelchair bounce together on the trampoline bed while another child joined in. The joy in that moment filled the whole gym. Other times, I'd simply comment something like, "Wow, you look so confident doing that." Or, "You're working hard at that. You're making your brain really strong." These small affirmations acknowledged effort without demanding interaction. Towards the end of the session, I'd give everyone a friendly heads up. The gym will be closing in 15 minutes. No warnings, but definitely just reminders. And then as families left, I always gave a very personal goodbye. I would maybe say something like, "Thank you so much for coming today. You made me smile when you did X, Y, and Z." Naming one thing that I noticed. That reflection made families and their kids feel seen and encouraged, and then it welcomed them to come back. That's my model. Simple, safe, welcoming, with a focus on free exploration. Now let's move to Joy's model. Hers looked a little different because she partnered directly with a special education school near her gym. The gym Joy rents space out of is located right next door to a special education school. Well, actually, right across the street, which opened a really unique opportunity for her. And I was super excited for her to have this opportunity. She invited the school to bring their students once a month over to the gym for their PE class. And at first, they were kind of hesitant, but eventually they decided on, yes, let's do it. And they would actually get to walk their students over to the gym. They didn't have to schedule any busing or anything like that. So it was a very great opportunity. And so her group was mostly older kids, ages 12 to 16-ish. And at first, the teachers were really hesitant. They weren't sure if students would engage or enjoy it. But after the first couple sessions, their mind were blown. Joy structured her sessions with a balance of free play and direction because the school viewed these field trips as a form of PE. She incorporated more structure than I did in my community sensory sessions. Students spent a lot of time on trampoline and tumble track and doing floor stations. And she would guide them towards bars and other apparatuses as well. I love rewatching these videos. This was one of those athletes that really didn't ever move in PE class, but she really thrived here. And you can see the teachers on the side. So teachers came and they were aides or assistants. Here's one more video. Again, these teachers were so shocked. Some of these kids rarely moved in class and or even in PE class and were suddenly bouncing and laughing and trying new things for the entire hour. They were seeing sides of their students they have never witnessed before. Over the course of the school year, the students built new skills, stamina, and confidence. Joy would call me after these sessions and just awe. They did more than I ever imagined. They wanted it. They were motivated to learn. And that's the true power of sensory sessions. When you connect with schools, they can become a regular, meaningful part of a child's education and movement experience. And finally, I would love to share a hybrid model from another gym I worked with. This one looked a little different, and it's a great reminder that you can shape these sessions to fit your team's creativity and your community's need. This gym wanted to start an adaptive program, but wasn't quite ready for full adaptive classes. So we collectively decided to start with them with sensory sessions. But instead of keeping the sessions entirely free play, they created a hybrid structure that blended exploration with optional activities. Here's how it worked. They set up stations that honored different sensory systems. There was always a tactile station, maybe a sensory bin or arts and crafts activity. They had vestibular and proprioceptive options with trampolines, swings, and climbing equipment. And then came the twist. Each child got a bingo card. Every time they visited a station and engaged in the activity, they earned a token. The goal was to fill the entire card. At the end, kids who completed their card got a small prize or treat. This design let them target not only movement and sensory exploration, but also executive functioning skills, planning, sequencing, and task completion. And here's what I want to really highlight. This was optional. Kids could spend the entire time bouncing in the pit if that's what they wanted, and that was celebrated. But for others, the bingo system provided motivation and structure. This hybrid model gave the gym incredible insight into which kids were thriving in a less structured environment and which ones were ready for a more routine and progression. And because they rotated activities each session, it became a perfect bridge into adaptive classes. So you have seen 3 completely different ways sensory sessions can run. My community model, simple, safe, and connection-based. Joy's school partnership model was structured but flexible with a PE-style flow. And then the hybrid model, creative stations with a bingo system to bridge into adaptive classes. The takeaway is this: there's no one right way to run sensory sessions. Every community, every gym, every set of athletes will need something slightly different. Your job as a gym and staff is to create a safe, welcoming, flexible environment where kids and families can explore movement in the way that works best for them. And here's the absolute best part, and the reason why I call this the adaptive foundation, or the foundation to adaptive programming. Sensory sessions don't just stand alone. They can grow into your adaptive classes, partnerships, and even your full adaptive program over time. So if you want support in building your own sensory sessions, check out the link in the description. You'll find our ebook, The Foundations of Adaptive Gymnastics, Step-by-Step Guide to Sensory Sessions. You will find our Adaptive Foundations course, and you will find a link to our coaching sessions. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more inclusive coaching strategies, and I can't wait to see how you bring sensory sessions to life in your gym.